Alright guys, Jameson and Alex here. Today we're going to be talking about the Eminence Monk from Auroboros by Warchief Gaming and Chris Metzen, who was the company creator who created World of Warcraft, Starcraft, Overwatch, and Diablo.
There you got it.
That's what it was. I was like, I'm missing one.
It's the four.
He branched off and started his own thing, and this book, Auroboros, is the first product from Warchief Gaming. If you're new to the channel or subclass series, what we're going to do is go through all the abilities gained in the subclass. We're going to rate it based on its roleplay, combat, and overall class synergy, based on how the abilities gained in the subclass improve on the base class abilities.
Building stuff.
Also, we have our D&D Beyond Players Bundle giveaway. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to be entered in that. Another thing coming for that soon. And, of course, thank you to Hit Point Press. And today we're going to be talking about the Humblewood box set, which we did a full review.
Yeah, there's a whole video on there somewhere.
It is campaign setting. It's got subclass options. It's got character options. It's got spells. It's got a whole adventure. It's got, if you buy the box set, all these punch outs. It's got the maps. It's got everything to run.
It's got
the entire adventure.
Arguably the most adorable plushie I have ever seen.
Yes. So definitely worth checking that out. Great stuff from them. Make sure you check out the link down below to help us out. Be great. Appreciated. So, all of that put aside, Alex will jump straight into it. What do we get with the Eminence Monk?
You're going to get a Sphere of Eminence. What you're going to get. And thankfully, it grows. And we like things that scale with you as you level up.
Yes.
If you've been around long enough, we'll bring it up every time it happens. Like, yay! They're doing it correctly. Way too many subclasses give you something cool that doesn't feel with you, doesn't grow with you. And you're like, oh, by level 6, you're like, this doesn't do much anymore for me. But yeah, this one does. So it starts off at a 5-foot radius, and the radius of that sphere grows 10 feet at level 6, 15 feet at level 11, and a 20-foot radius at level 17. Doesn't sound like much, but when you hear what it does, you realize that's actually kind of a big area. Yeah. Your Sphere of Eminence can be turned on or off with a bonus action and provides the following benefits while active. You know the location of all creatures within your Sphere of Eminence, any stealthy ones or invisible ones or whatever. You have advantage on wisdom checks caused by any creature within your Sphere of Eminence. And you can use your reaction to increase your AC by 2 when you are attacked by a creature within your Sphere of Influence. No limitations to that, so...
Yes, but outside of your reaction, but yes.
Right, but it's not like you do this number of times equal to whatever per day or any of that kind of thing.
Definitely.
Yeah, just foregoing your reaction for some defense.
Also at level 3, we have Mind Strike. Melee attacks may be made with your mind against any creature within your Sphere of Eminence that you can see, without requiring you to physically touch them. Martial arts attacks made in this way use Wisdom modifier instead of Dex or Strength. So, there's a couple of things that need to be pointed out because this is actually very important that it's mentioned and written the way that it is. It says melee attacks can be made with your mind.
Yes.
So even though you're at range, it still is classified as a melee attack, it will become important here at the next ability.
Yes.
And then also the ability that is focused on Wisdom instead of Dex or Strength will have major consequences as well later on.
That's right. Level 6, we get Expel. Once on each of your turns, when you hit a creature with a melee attack, you can choose to deal your martial arts die instead of normal damage and force the creature to make a strength saving throw or be knocked back outside of your Sphere of Eminence. So again, as that grows, you're eventually pushing people 10, 15, and 20 foot away from you. Yeah. On a strength saving throw, which again, strength save's not the best save. It's not great, but again, it's still a chance, and there's no limits to using that. Just every time you pop them, you can force them to make the saving throw. And if they don't, go on, get back. Yes. Also at 6, we have Overwhelming Presence. You can spend 2 key points as a bonus action to force a creature within your Sphere of Eminence to make a strength save against your key save or fall prone if they fail that save.
Yes. And, prone.
Melee strikes prone creatures.
It's melee. It's not ranged, even though it's at range.
Yep.
Makes a difference.
Knocks somebody on their keister 10 feet away from you, and you're like, still lapping on them. Yes. Very important. That's right.
Level 11, we have Focal Lattice. When you spend key points on Flurry of Blows, Expel, or Overwhelming Presence, you may spend 1 key point to make an additional attack action against an additional creature within your Sphere of Eminence. So a nice way to deal a little bit extra damage on there.
That's right.
Barring there are multiple things in your sphere. And at level 11, I mean, we're at a 15 foot, so you got pretty decent range. You got to kind of get in the middle mix of things a little bit on there, which
you're a monk. You're going to think be close to stuff anyway.
Right. So there you go. Also at level 11, we have Sever Mana. You can cast Counterspell by spending any number of key points up to a maximum of 9, targeting only creatures within your sphere of eminence.
Love that.
If the spell being cast is of a level higher than the number of key points spent, make an ability check using your Wisdom modifier. The DC equals 10 plus the spell's level. On a success, the creature's spell fails and has no effect. You may use this ability 3 times per long rest. So a nice little way to interrupt some casters. But you got to make sure you're getting up in the fray. If they're running away from you, then
That's true.
you're not going to be able to interrupt them. So
Yep.
stick to those casters.
That's right. Mage Slayer, baby. Yeah, I said it. At 17, we have Singular Will. You can spend 2 key points to re-roll one of your dice rolls, including damage rolls and skill checks. You can only re-roll this dice once, and it must be re-rolled before the GM declares whether the roll succeeds or fails. You can use Singular Wills a number of times in a single turn to re-roll different dice.
Yes.
So if you hit with one attack, you want to re-roll the damage. If another attack, you re-roll that damage, you can. But
Yes.
2 key points per re-roll.
There you go.
And our final ability, also still at level 17, is Veil of Thoughts. As an action, you may spend 6 key points to make any number of creatures within your sphere of eminence perform a Wisdom saving throw against your key save DC. If they fail, they are paralyzed for 3 rounds.
Whoa!
And can attempt to perform a Wisdom saving throw against your key save at the end of each of their turns to break the save. To break the paralyzed, excuse me.
Yes. I mean, okay.
But that is any number of targets, and by
Yes.
then your sphere is at 20-foot radius. So
okay.
you just sprint in there and stun everything. Paralyze everything.
Paralyze better than stun.
There's a different connotation.
The advantage on attacks.
Yeah, that's right.
Melee attacks. Very important.
Why?
Within 5 feet. Within 5 feet.
Why are there 2 different abilities? One says paralyze and one is stun.
I mean, there's also like incapacitated. It's very similar.
No. Why though?
And then there's petrified. And yeah, there's lots of things that are very, very similar.
Restrained and grappled.
Why? Wizards. Maybe we'll see that updated when they update 5.5e in a couple of years or whatever.
Yeah.
Definitely on the docket for sure.
Yeah. Reduce the number of
or
status
simplify
effects.
some of them.
Yeah.
Anyways, tangent averted.
It's all the abilities gained in the subclass. So from there, we'll move over to the ratings portion of the video. Asterisk, as always.
Thanks, I got myself off the rails there for a second. So, we're talking about roleplay value. We're talking about interacting with the world around you, interacting with NPCs, non-combat scenarios, avoiding combat, basically things outside of the initiative order. Not talking about your class fantasy, history, lore, background that's on you as a player. We can't rate you. We can't rate the abilities gained in the subclass and how they might improve your potential in those roleplay scenarios.
That's right.
So, looking at the Eminence Monk on here, you have some interesting abilities.
Yeah.
One of which is the knowing creatures nearby.
Yep.
Though that can be niche. It's similar to like a tremor sense, which is pretty powerful, but it is a close radius, so you're kind of putting yourself in a little bit of a risky situation if something is really dangerous and it's invisible.
Yep.
So that's something to keep in mind. And also in a roleplay scenario, you could maybe know that someone's spying on you but not say anything.
Could.
You know,
that'd be kind of fun.
Kind of give some false information or something like that, something like that.
Ooh.
So there's some interesting things that could be done with that. If you're getting advantage with the wisdom checks, caused by creatures within your sphere of eminence, that is a little bit up to DM discretion.
Yeah.
Because depending on how you interpret that, a creature that creates, footprints or tracks.
Yep.
It's created by the creature, and if you stumble upon them later on, it would be inside your sphere. So
the tracks would be, the creature wouldn't be. So.
Right. So, but it would be a wisdom check of survival
yep.
caused by a creature.
Yeah.
So make sure you discuss that with your DM to understand ahead of time how they want to interpret it specifically, because they left that a little bit open.
Yep.
And they did that for a few of the things on here because they have a few notes about working with your DM, to understand stuff. So they wanted to leave a little bit of wiggle room, I think, on there. So definitely make sure you address that
Yes.
before it happens instead of trying to figure it out in the moment.
And there's a 100% chance you think, even if you're a good player and a good DM and you do address these things ahead of time, there's a good chance one or both of you have forgotten like one thing, so you're still going to run into one of those like, what about this? Or it's like some really peculiar instance you never would have dreamed would have actually happened until it does.
Right.
It's Dungeons and Dragons, people. Anything can happen.
Absolutely.
Especially when you get into homebrew stuff.
Yes, that is definitely true. Also, you have some niche uses with knockback or prone. Someone's maybe trying to chase you. Get back, you know. Good luck if you just kind of keep up the rear of the party and just keep pushing back everyone.
It's like, no.
And then counterspell is niche, but can be used in RP if you catch someone trying to like charm or cast something like invisibility. I don't know. You catch them trying to do something, you can counterspell. But the niche part is you got to be pretty close to them to do so. So how often is that going to come up? Probably not all that much.
Yep.
And then of course you have your singular roll, reroll, which can help you get some better ability checks and stuff like that. But it is at level 17, so it's pretty late to be coming online for roleplay stuff.
Yes.
So we just went with a flat 3 on here. Some interesting options, but some niche uses, I would say, to kind of keep it down a peg on there.
The combat side of things still holds very strong as well. Again, with that sphere growing with you as you level, it's fantastic. It's knowing the locations of stuff. In the case you were blinded by a creature, technically you would still be able to see things you could hit, even though you don't have to have blind sight because you know where they are, so you can still hit them.
Right.
Which is fantastic. Which is going to be which be better once you've got a big radius of that.
Absolutely.
And the fact that you can choose to forego your reaction every turn, essentially, to increase your AC if there's something trying to hit you from inside there. You don't have to, but it's an option just to make you tankier. I mean, for a monk, with you get your unarmored defense plus that, you can get a pretty good high AC eventually with that to be on there all the time. Of course, your Mind Strike really helps you play this unused area of a lot of RPGs, in my opinion. That whole middle range, you're still kind of melee, but once the sphere gets to that 15 and 20 foot radius, you can kind of be right around the rim of maybe where melee combat is happening without having to be right there in somebody's face.
Right.
It also allows you to
opportunity
attacks, exactly, and you're not going to be gang dump on as easy. You can disengage very easily yourself without actually having to take the disengage action because you're not in their melee range. Even most large, even humongous creatures have a 10 or even 15 foot range. Eventually, your thing's still going to outrange their reach, which is fantastic. Expel and Overwhelming Presence both have a chance to, force somebody out of your space that you don't want to be there, to get them outside of the range. If they've only ran up there into your face, you can just try to knock them out of that space or knock them on their butt, so you can then, and maybe any other melee creatures within range that are friendly, can then just mash something very quickly. Vocal Blast, again, giving you one extra attack for your flurry of blows. Expel, Ring Presence, you can get one extra little punch, kick, Mind Strike, whatever you so choose in there, further helping your combat. Sever Mana. God, I love that. Yes, it is limited to something being inside your sphere of eminence, but if you know that, you immediately become the person who's like, oh, they have a caster. I'm going to make their worst nightmare. And because you're a monk, you can get there like you've got teleport.
Right.
Because A, you've got unarmored movement, and B, because of your sphere of eminence, you've got more reach. So that's going to add on to that. So you're going to have 40, 50, feet, maybe even more in some cases, of reach between your movement speed and the size of your aura, that you can cover that ground extremely well to be in range of casters to deal with them. It is 3 times per day, but it's your key points, and you're getting them back on short rests, and it's only going to cost the number of. And even if you choose to throw 4 key points on it because you're not sure how big the spell is, that's where you get into try to avoid some metagaming, because would your character know? Right. If he's never seen the spell cast, or one of his party members doesn't know the spell, he's not going to know, is that a 6-level spell, a 7-level spell? Right. There's something, be careful with that. But you find out it's a 9th level spell, you're like, oh, it's going to be a DC of 19, which is high, but it's not beatable. Right. It's not unbeatable.
Unbeatable.
It's not unbeatable. Because you're going to be running Wisdom, which is the other thing I will cap with this here in just a second. The final 2 abilities with Singular Will, Veil of Thought, re-rolling your damage, fine. Skill checks, that's fine. Damage, obviously, for the combat side of things. A little underwhelming, I think, for a capstone, if there wasn't the other 17th thing right behind it that says stunning any number of targets.
Yeah.
But which, by that point, your Eminence sphere has reached 20 feet. For 3 rounds. It's not just a turn. Now, granted, they can attempt to resave, but it is a wisdom saving throw against your DC. Right. Which brings us to the most important feature of this whole thing. Wisdom build the monk.
Absolutely.
You full wisdom build the monk. You don't give a fart about strength, and you're still going to want to have little decks. But you're capping wisdom before you bother with anything else besides whatever your base stat rolls or point buy or whatever situation you're doing, because your Mind Strike monk attacks are based on there, and then your abilities for your saves from your subclass and your base monk abilities like Stunning Strike, other things like that, Flurry of Blows, anything like that you're going to be using are going to be all based on your wisdom anyway. So wisdom build the monk.
Absolutely.
4 out of a possible 5 stars.
Yes.
And I think biggest limitations we talked about are you're still a melee class, even though you've got some extra reach. You still have to be able to get stuff inside your sphere for almost all of the abilities to take place. So that's and then the strength saves for a couple of your abilities usually aren't great.
The types of saves can come into
later
play.
Game, late game, you're praying for intelligence and charisma saves, because unless you're fighting an enemy caster or a dragon, those things are never good for anybody.
And I think part of it too is with counterspell and even the capstone with the paralyzed condition, the Veil of Thoughts. They can be pretty expensive. You get them back on a short rest.
Yep.
But you're only going to maybe be able to use these maybe once a combat because of how much they cost.
Yeah.
So that's something you have to factor in as well, is the number of uses per combat as well.
Yep.
So a little bit of limitations on there. And then lastly, we have the overall class synergy. And as Alex kind of said, I'm not going to repeat everything he said because he mentioned a lot of the main points on here.
I tend to do that.
The biggest point being the complete synergy with just a full-on wisdom build. That's going to make all of your abilities that have saves better, like even Stunning Strike is going to be better. So you're going to have a variety of different save options. You're going to have con save, you're going to have wisdom save, you're going to have strength save. You're going to have a bunch of different stuff utility-wise with the key points. Speaking of, you get a couple new uses for your key point usage on here as well. And then with the Focal Lattice, you get some other synergies as well, giving some extra attacks. And, of course, with Flurry of Blows, which is a really important kind of thing. And then with your Expel and Overwhelming Presence as well, some synergy with those. So with all of that stuff tying together and some internal synergy and being able to focus on a specific stat and to buff some of your other abilities, we went with a 4.5 on the synergy side. Because it really simplifies the building of the monk, and it impacts all the stuff you would be doing anyways and makes them a little bit better.
That's right.
So that's it for this one, guys.
Yes.
We got 2 more left from Auroboros, so make sure you stay tuned for those.
Yes.
Let us know in the comments down below your thoughts on these so far. Thank you again to our sponsors, Hit Point Press. Make sure you check out their Humblewood stuff. Make sure you please, guys, if you get a minute, just check out that link down below. Look through their stuff.
Yeah.
It's really high quality.
Yep.
And if you want to watch our old videos reviewing it and looking through it, it's definitely worth a look if you haven't checked it out yet. So, do us a favor and click that link down below. Let them know that you're interested. And, that's it for today, guys. If you enjoyed the video, remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you know when new videos are coming out. And as always, thanks for watching.